Good afternoon, or I should say evening at this point, you guys. It is 7 o'clock on Thursday evening, February the 15th. I had to think about that for a second, but Valentine's Day was yesterday. So I hope everybody had an amazing day, felt love in some form or fashion. So I appreciate you choosing to spend your time with me tonight. I want to share with you some exciting news about tax cuts and how that could potentially affect you if you're already living in Georgia, or obviously if you're thinking about making a move to Georgia, how you should, be interpreting this information and what that's going to look like. So, first, let's say hello. Gotta love it. Right on time. Georgia lower taxes. They finally getting with the times. I agree. Lower taxes is always going to be a positive in my book. And I don't think that there's anyone that will tell you otherwise. However, I am definitely a skeptic and always feel like they are trying to um, maybe send us a loophole somewhere. Did they really lower taxes, or are we paying for them somewhere else? What does that really look like? So thank you for joining tonight. As always, if you have questions along the way, drop the question below or drop a comment below. This is the only way that I know what questions you guys have or what information I can be better assisting you with, because that's why I spend Thursday nights trying to educate you guys on what is going on in the market. I was actually having a conversation the other day with a client, and we were talking about the fact of it's really sad that mainstream media has gotten so out of it that you can't really trust much of what you're learning there. You have to come to YouTube and listen to different people on YouTube, which you still have to be very careful and make sure that you're fact checking all of the information that you're hearing. But it's really sad that you have to do that instead of just being able to come here, watch the news and get your good information. But it's just not that day and time anymore. Um, don't say that. That's our secret, right? Yeah. But I'm super excited and super pumped to kind of share with you guys the information that has come out, because it's been something that has been talked about for quite some time, and it's been proposed, but it not officially passed. And I know a lot of people that live here in Georgia really felt the heat last year, because as properties, equity and property rose and property values rose, so did our taxes. And that was painful for a lot of people, myself included. And you buy your home looking at what your monthly payment is going to be most of the time, because we don't always look at, your mortgage as a whole. We're looking at what can I afford per month, just like you would a rent, you're paying your mortgage. And so if that monthly mortgage payment, what you are used to paying, changes significantly by even $100 or sometimes less, that can be very hard on a budget. And so if your taxes go up in, pretty steep, that is going to change your monthly payment, because you're going to be short in your escrow account that you've been paying into each month. And now you owe a certain amount of money on those property taxes. Well, now you're going to have to pay that back over the next 12 months. You have the option to pay it in one lump sum if you want to go ahead and keep your monthly payment the same. But either way, it's still now a surprise. Hey, by the way, you've got additional money that you owe that you didn't see coming. So with these tax incentives that they've got going on, let's just take a look here, because I'm pretty excited. Um, Here we go. I love the red shoe. Fun. Georgia House backs state income tax and property tax cuts in a unanimous vote. So if we take a look here, the Georgia House on Thursday passed bills to cut state income and local property taxes. So Governor Kemp had brought this up back in 2022, but it wasn't officially passed until this year. So the bills would accelerate an already planned income tax cut. They would increase homeowner property tax exemption. So basically, they're increasing the amount that we are able to put on our tax exemption. So like we have homestead exemption here, which gives you a deduction in your taxes that would increase the amount that you would be able to do. So their goal is, even though growth in state tax collections is slowing, Georgia can afford tax cuts because the state budgeted to spend much less than what it will collect in taxes and had 10.7 billion in surplus. So I don't know about you guys, but 10.7 billion in surplus. I feel like maybe I shouldn't have to pay my taxes at all this year. I feel like y'all got it covered, but that's just me. So looking at this even further, it says right here, to roll back the state income tax rate to 5.39 retroactive to January 1st of this year. As of that date, Georgia gained a flat income tax rate of 5.49. And this was passed under a 2022 law that transitioned away that had topped out at 5.75. So we're rolling back. And the goal over time is to get it down to 4.99%. So they're saying, it's right here, the income tax rate is supposed to drop 0.1% a year until reaching 4.99 if state revenues hold up. Ooh, there's the kicker. If state revenues can stand up to this. So here's hoping that it does, because realistically, they say that this could save us billions on taxes each year for the American, or for the Georgian people. This is only in the state of Georgia. So I've had some people who have questioned, because there are states right around us, even Florida, that doesn't have those taxes. And so what is the benefit to moving here if now I'm having to pay this? Well, a lot of things in Georgia are actually more affordable. So if this continues, this would be a big win for Georgia to be able to compete with some of those surrounding states that don't have the state income taxes. So let's take a look at a couple of questions that we've gone doing more work than journalists. That is the absolute truth, Anthony. Isn't it sad, but smart on you for doing so. I'm doing fantastic. How are you? I am so glad that you're here tonight. You just always bring so much fun energy to the show. And is home insurance attached to property taxes? Like if the property taxes go down, will that decrease home insurance coverage as well? Unfortunately, that is a no. It's different. So they're more looking at what it would cost to replace the home. And so that's going to be more associated with the value of the home. And it's going to be associated with what costs are right now. Because let's say, God forbid, your home burned down tomorrow. What are they going to have to do to replace the value of that home, to rebuild that home? So that's more of what they're looking like. I wish it would, but unfortunately, not the case. So will we see this happening, over time? I do believe so. Will it stay with us long term if we can keep our spending down? So it says House members also voted House Bill 1021, which would raise the amount of taxpayers could deduct for their dependents to $4,000 from the current $3,000, which that's a much needed thing. And then the House also voted for House Bill 1021, which would reduce local property taxes for some homeowners. The bill would need a 2/3 majority to pass the Senate and then must be approved by voters in a statewide referendum in November. Well, I can tell you guys for sure that when I'm voting, I'm going to be voting for this, because I definitely think that we need a pause in taxes being increased, just because we already have a lot of things being increased right now. We've talked about this on the show last week. Groceries have gone up. Housing has gone up. It feels like everything has gone up. So if they could put a pause on taxes, that would be fantastic. So looking at this further, it says this gives good tax relief at a time that's needed for people to buy their first home here in Georgia. However, this is the kicker right here. This wouldn't apply in all counties, and they haven't really given much more information on which counties this would apply to or which ones it wouldn't. They're saying that it would apply in most. So we're going to have to stay tuned to see what is going to come with which counties might be affected by not allowing this. But it says senators are likely to counter with a plan that would cap the rate at which assessed property values could rise for tax purposes, which could limit future property tax increases. I feel like this is a huge thing that needs to happen because people need to be able to budget. It's kind of like last year with interest rates. I feel like people are willing to purchase. They need to be able to budget. So when the interest rate goes from 3% to 6% in a year's time, that's a massive change in affordability from what they could afford at 3% to what they can afford at 6%. So people have to be able to wrap their minds around this. They need to be able to prepare and save for this. So when property taxes are going up so quickly each year, people are not able to save and make sure that they're planning for what their tax bill is going to be, because you need to understand we are usually paying taxes in arrears. So it means you're paying for the year before. And so we need to be able to look and say, okay, this is what my taxes might look like this year. So if they were to put a cap on it, that would significantly help people to be able to say, okay, I know it's not going to go above this specific amount, which would be huge for a homeowners, with their tax bills and what their monthly payments would look like. Because I don't know about you guys, but I have everything on a budget, how much I'm spending on groceries, how much I'm spending on a car, or how much I'm spending on housing. So if all of a sudden I had all of those boxes, right in a row, and now my taxes have gone up and kind of taken me out of my comfort zone, that's where you see some people sometimes looking at, well, now I have to sell because my monthly payment is no longer what I'm comfortable in. And that's where you see some of those things happening. And you don't want that to come down the pipe. You really don't. So I think that this looks like a positive thing. Another thing that I wanted people to take a look at, because I've had so many people ask me recently, why do people and companies continue to move to Georgia? And I wanted to really show you guys a lot of the reasons why companies are moving here. And the reason people are moving here is multifaceted, but one of them is because of jobs. We have so many companies that are coming here, and a lot of it is because of the tax credits. So a rock solid foundation of consistent policy. They just have really great information and tax credits. Georgia lowers its corporate tax rate. You can see right there, boy, they're making big on this. But you've got the job tax credit, which goes to creating new jobs is a good way to reduce your company's corporate tax liability. But then if you come down here, you've got a PPE manufacturing tax credit. You've got the port tax credit. I'm not really sure what this even means, a different kind of break. You've got the general ROI with tax breaks, and then you've got additional, but then you've also got, we're going to get over to that one. Another one that people don't realize is the tax breaks that are for the film industry. That has been a huge one. And people say, well, why did the film industry keep coming to Georgia? It's because of the tax breaks. They can get up to a 20% tax credit. And that is huge for them. So that's why a lot of the film industry has come here. And obviously that is providing jobs as well. I will say that I've heard from quite a few people that are in that industry that it's not providing as many jobs as you would like to think that it is, that they're showing on the news that it is. But the film industry has come here because they're getting money back compared to where they were previously. Number one, it was extremely expensive to be there to begin with, and they weren't getting the credits and taxes that you will get here in Georgia. So that is why so many businesses come here to open up. Georgia is actually one of the known places that fosters entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I can't say that I have all of these tax credits. However, there are so many small businesses in Georgia, which I personally love, and it's because of all of the tax breaks that you get. So before we go into our next thing that I want to go over with you guys, let's take a look. Sorry, y'all, I'm late. No worries. Happy to hear that. I'm doing all right. That is so good to hear. I hope you are. What is it like in your state right now? Is it sunshine today, you guys? In Georgia, it was in the 60s. I went to the park with my kids and absolutely enjoyed my day. We have not had a warm, sunshiny day in what feels like forever. It's probably only been a couple of weeks, but it's been cold for months, and I am not a cold person. We're debating a retirement location of either East Tennessee versus North Georgia. Tennessee has no state tax, which makes it more attractive. I completely understand that. I have another client that's actually looking at South Tennessee versus North Georgia. Excuse me. Obviously, they're very close. So they've kind of been driving back and forth between the two. They're finding more affordable homes here in Georgia that they like in the locations versus Tennessee. However, obviously that state tax does play a part into that. They are leaning towards Georgia just because of the affordable, housing that they're finding. But if you're looking in Tennessee and you're finding what you're looking for at an affordable price, I can't say that I blame you. A lot of people come to Georgia for schools and things like that. But if that's not something that's important to you, obviously, if you're looking in retirement, that's probably not where your focus is right now. I can't say that I blame you. So you'll have to let us know what you end up doing, because I'm always interested to see, because my focus is solely on Georgia real estate. I always find it really interesting to hear about some of the other states and what people are finding as far as affordability and what you end up choosing. So I would love, Brian, if you would let me know, what you find and what you end up doing. It's the myth and the legend, Miss Ayers. You guys crack me up. Do you know that why they would limit the counties? That would create bubbles in some areas. I absolutely agree. And I am going to speculate here. Obviously, I don't know the absolute truth, but Anthony, I really and truly think that they want to create bubbles because certain areas and certain pockets are already so overpopulated. I personally think that they want to push people into different areas. And obviously, like Mr. Sipes has just said, he is looking at tax benefits. And if that, tax benefit might win him over, then perhaps if you're looking at, say, Gwinnett County versus Barrow County, well, Barrow County has less people, but maybe you don't want to go there. But if there's a tax incentive to go there, then maybe it might look a little bit more attractive. So I can't say for certain. I unfortunately am not privy to the governor and his thoughts. However, I feel like that's what they're going to kind of try to push. But I feel like it is going to create a conflict of interest because some people, you're going to have people, if your county isn't part of that, why not? You're going to have a rising of people getting really irritated and upset about that because there's no one person that didn't have things increased, over this last 24 months. Everybody has had an increase. Now, some of the counties south of Atlanta, and when I say south, I'm talking like in the plains of Georgia going towards Florida. I don't think that they saw the major increases that the north side did. Perhaps those will be some of the counties that aren't included because they didn't see such a rise in equity and a rise in home values. I guess we'll have to see. Your guess is as good as mine, but that's my 2 cents. The no income tax is good for self-employed folk or if you have multiple streams of income. That's definitely true. It was sunny and high of about 57 degrees, so it was pleasant for February. That sounds good. That sounds about like my day today, so I'm good with that. So there's a couple of new things that are coming up that I wanted to talk to you guys about that are coming up in Dawsonville. So if we take a look over here, this is a new area that they're going to be building. This is actually going to be right off of Highway 400 off of if you're off of Highway 400, you're going to turn onto Highway 53, which is right there by the outlet malls. And then you're going to see the peaks of Dawsonville. These are apartments. They're expected to open April of 2023. It's actually 2024 because these are things that have been coming up. And they started a phase last year, and then they're going to be finishing them out this year. And then they have another phase that is going to be coming up. And those are actually going to be more of affordable housing. It's a mixed use village. So there's going to be some townhomes as well as there's going to be some apartments. These will have garages with the townhomes. The apartments would not. So the Dawsonville area for a long time did not really have apartments and things like that. However, in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, they have definitely built out a couple of areas. It's bringing affordable housing to that area. Dawsonville has still for a long time been a much more affordable area. You're right at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it's kind of funny because when you're kind of at the bottom of Cumming going up Highway 400, you've got a lot of shopping, but then you go through this long corridor of not a lot going on. It's mostly more residential. And then you come out on the other side of Cumming into Dawsonville, and you've got the 400 outlets. You've got a Kroger, a Publix, a TJ Maxx, the Restoration Hardware outlet, which is my favorite to go up there for. The outlet mall itself has everything that you could ever need in shopping. They've had a ton of restaurants open up. So Dawsonville has really grown. They've got a Walmart, a Home Depot, literally anything and everything you need. The only thing that I feel like they have completely missed the boat on, and you've heard me probably talk about this in my video of Dawson, is they don't have a Target. We need a Target in Dawsonville. However, if you drive just 20 minutes south to Cumming, exit 15 or 14, you can get to it either way. There is a Costco, there is a Target. It's actually a super Target. There's a Kohl's, another Home Depot and Walmart. So right there, you've got everything you need within a 15, 20-minute range. So I'm super excited about this project. I think that it's going to bring a lot more options instead of, if you're not really ready to buy right now, or maybe you're moving here and you're not sure if you're going to love Dawsonville or not, get into an apartment for a little while and rent. There's nothing wrong with renting for a little while. I don't care what anybody says. I know I'm a realtor. I'm supposed to be selling you things, but hey, sometimes you just got to pause for a second, regroup, see if you like it if you're new here, because it is a little bit further away from the city. And so you need to make sure that if you're needing to commute, going down Highway 400 can be a bear, because 285, if you're needing to commute into the city, you're going to take 400 south and get into 285. And that's just an absolute freaking no. 285 is awful. So if you can avoid it, please do at all costs. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is something that, if you are following me on Instagram, you probably heard me go off about this the other day, but it's first-time home buyer programs. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, go over there, because you might hear me go off a couple times a week about certain things like this. But I just like to make sure that everyone is educated about things before you jump into something. And I know sometimes if you're looking at buying, you're just kind of solely focused on what you're doing and you're not looking at all of the red tape, because let's be honest, a lot of it is illegal mumbo jumbo. It was written by an attorney to help you not understand what you're reading, and it's 45 pages long. So there's certain people that are going to read every page. Anthony, I'm looking at you. But they're going to read every page. They're going to make sure that they understand everything. And if they have questions, they're going to ask. Other people are going to say, I'm totally overwhelmed with this. Can you basically just tell me what the wrap up is? And they're going to move forward. So I'm here to tell you what the wrap up is, because I want to make sure you're getting the truth before you're really diving off into anything, major. So, love RH. Yes, it's a bad place for Ashley to go because they have a lot of great things. Do y'all have a lot of Publixes? We do. That is my favorite grocery store. We have a lot of Kroger's. We have a lot of Publix. Those are probably our main two grocery stores. If you go a little bit further out, you're going to find other things. We used to have Ingles, but they've closed most of them. We also have Fresh Market. There's not a ton of those. We have Trader Joe's, but they're not everywhere. You got to drive to get to your Trader Joe's. Whole Foods. My Georgia people, drop in the comment, what else do we have here? Those are the main ones that I know. Sell my Jordans, my go-to. Yes, we have Publix, the best grocery store in the world. I will say that some people say that Publix is more expensive. I don't really feel like it is. I mean, compared to Aldi's another one that we have, and Lidl, I'm not sure how you say it. We have those. They're not everywhere, but they're starting to become more popular. I get overwhelmed in those stores. They are more affordable, but I get really overwhelmed when I jump into those stores just because I feel like I don't know where anything is. I'm a creature of habit. I love Publix because I will pay the extra money for customer service. That's just who I am. I like when I go in and I know the people and they smile at me and they do all of the things. It just makes me feel good. Yes, I might be paying more, but I don't care because now I'm happy. And so I know where everything is. I also don't like to go to a different Publix than my Publix. I feel like all Publix are all chains. If it's a Kroger, they should all be the same. If it's a Publix, they should all be the same. Don't move things in different stores. Like if I'm in a different state, I still need to know where the milk is. So that's just me being picky. I feel attacked. You should feel smart. That's what you should feel. Food Lion, like here in VA, do we have any Food Lions left? I don't know. I don't think that we do. We used to have a lot of Piggly Wigglies, especially when you went to the North Georgia mountains. But unfortunately, we don't have a ton of Piggly Wigglies anymore. But let me get focused here on what I was going to tell you guys about the first-time homebuyer programs. So I just first wanted to Google it, right? First, let me pull it up on the screen so you can see it. So when you Google first-time homebuyer programs, there's a ton of information that pops up. Well, these are all sponsored. So of course, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. So we come down here and you look at some of this. So how much do first-time homebuyers have to put down in Georgia? Well, let's just click on that. It says 3%. So 3% is what you would be looking at if you were doing an FHA loan. An FHA loan, you're going to be putting down the minimum of 3%, and that would be 3% of the purchase price. So if you're looking at buying a $300,000 house, then you're going to be looking at doing about a $9,000 down payment. Now, keep in mind that most of the time is not going to be including your closing costs. So that's a totally separate fee. You might need to be saving up more money because you're really just looking at your down payment for this. But then if we go a little bit further, if you're eligible for a VA loan or an USDA loan, you may not need a down payment at all. So those two loans, a VA loan, which is going to be anyone that served, or if you have passed that down, if you had a loved one, say, my dad, and then he passed that down to me, I might be eligible for his VA loan. So those loans are 100% financing. And then a USDA loan is going to be an agricultural loan. So you're not going to be able to just get those anywhere. Only certain properties are going to qualify for those agricultural loans. It usually has to be in specific areas, and then it's going to have to be considered an agricultural property. Or if you're looking at, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have farms on it. A lot of people think that they only can have an agricultural loan if they're looking at having, cattle or horses, something like that. But that's not what it's for. So if you have questions about if a home would be qualified for an agricultural loan, let me know, or I can connect you with my lender. They're able to quickly look at it and be able to let you know if that's something that you're looking at. But with this being said, says that you only have to put down 3%. Well, then what if you need, assistance? So this is where it gets tricky for me, and it's really frustrating. It says, what is the Georgia Dream program? It provides affordable mortgage financing for eligible homeowners. Well, really and truly, if you want to apply for this, there's a couple of things. You have to be a first-time home buyer, and you have not owned a home in the past 3 years, or be purchasing a home in certain areas of Georgia. So see, this goes back to what we were just talking about with the taxes. It's putting you into a situation where you're only able to get qualified if you are purchasing in specific areas. A lot of times that's going to be inner city areas. And then you have to be a first-time home buyer or somebody that hasn't owned something in the last 3 years, which I understand, right? Because they're wanting to provide assistance to those that are trying to get into housing. A lot of us that have owned homes can use our equity from the home that we're selling to then leverage us into the next house. So we don't need the assistance like possibly somebody that is buying their first home. So that's why that's there. Not have a household income that exceeds the maximum household income. Well, I can tell you it's very low. So even though you might still be struggling, their threshold for this is quite low. So I don't know if you've looked at things recently, but if you're making $70,000 or $80,000 a year and you're still trying to afford a family of four and buy a home, you're stretched extremely thin. So their threshold max, uh, I feel like should be raised a little bit. Have liquid assets of no more than $20,000 or 20% of the sales price, meet mortgage loan credit requirements, and be purchasing a home with a sales price that does not exceed the limit. The tough part on that is every area is different when it talks about the limits of what the price point could be. And so with this, it's not ever like a guarantee. I can't tell you that in Gwinnett County you could do this or in Fulton County you could do this. There's always red tape going everywhere. So you have to kind of look at, okay, let's talk to the lender and say, this is where we were looking for the most part. And so what is it going to look like in that specific state? The other thing about this is, if you're not looking at the Georgia Dream program, there are other programs that are out there. One of them off the top of my head that I've had people work with is called NACA. And with NACA, it's not necessarily a bad program. And I'm going to tell you, like I told on Instagram, I'm not telling you not to use these programs. I'm telling you to make sure that you're doing your homework on the program before you sign up for one, because there's always red tape. I don't care what they tell you. So with NACA specifically, NACA is going to be one that you have to do classes with. So they're going to teach you different things as far as homeownership. So there's a certain amount of hours of classes that you have to take with NACA. And then there is also community service that you have to do. You're basically serving your community and doing things in payback for NACA giving you the money to assist with your home purchase. The other characteristic of NACA is that you can't sell the home within a specific time frame. It used to be within 8 years. You had to stay in the home within 8 years. Or if you sold the home prior to that, you had to pay back the money that they had given you. It was almost like a loan. Now you're needing to pay that loan back because you sold the home prior to the time that you signed that you would keep the property. And so that is going to be limiting if you're thinking about making a move, or let's say you get a job transfer. What are you going to do? Now you've got to pay that money back. Another factor, and this is not NACA or Georgia Dream, there are other programs. However, it's very tricky the way that they're worded, because it basically is not them giving you money. It is assistance, but it's assistance in the fact of they're giving you a second mortgage on the house. They're giving you a second loan on the home. So let's say we were looking at getting an FHA loan where you need 3% to put down on that property. Well, they'll give you the 97% as a traditional loan at whatever today's rate is. Let's say it's 6.7, and they will give you that loan. Well, then they're going to give you a second loan for 3%. And that 3% is going to be possibly at a rate of 9 or 10%. And it's going to be over maybe 10 years. Well, that's great because you're getting into a house. But realistically, me saving up $9,000 and having it be no percent interest compared to now I'm having to pay 10% interest over 10 years, that's going to significantly raise what I'm needing to pay. So you really have to weigh, is it worth it to get a first-time home buyer grant or program that's going to assist you? You really have to read through the fine tape to see, is this actually assisting me and helping me get into a home? Or am I just maybe not financially where I need to be yet to buy this home? Because you don't want to get yourself into a situation just to get into a house. You really need to look at everything and make sure that it's making sense for you. By all means, I want everybody to get into home ownership because I've said it before, it's what creates generational wealth. It's what's going to propel you to be able to get into that next house. However, I'm the best believer in that you need to be financially ready and financially sound before you're getting into a home. Don't fall for some of these programs that sound like they're there to help you when in reality, they're just making money off of you by then making more with the interest rate at a higher interest rate for giving you or, gifting you the money. I hope that all made sense. And if you have any questions at all, definitely let me know. So let's see. These days, everything is expensive. Yes, for sure. Question for a young mind. If you have equity in a home and you sell said home, can you get cash from that sale even if you still owe on the loan? So how this works, let's just play with some numbers here. Let's say that you bought a home for $200,000 and now you have stayed in that home for a certain amount of time and now that home is worth $300,000. Well, along the time that you've been living in that home for, let's say, the past 2 years, you've probably been paying down on that home because you've been paying your monthly mortgage. So now let's say you bought it for 200, you can sell it for 300, but really you've paid your payment down and now you only owe on the loan 150. You're going to, at closing, the attorney at closing is going to pay off the loan first of that 150, and then they're going to cut you a check or wire to your bank account the other 150 that is now your equity that you've earned over time. And where, let's say that you already had a home that you were looking to purchase and you were under contract, you can actually do a double closing where you close on the home that you own in the morning. The attorney will pay off your loan for that home. Then they will wire the other funds to the next closing. You then go to that closing and you will close on the home that you're buying. And any money that's left over, let's say we wired 150,000 to that next closing, but really you were only going to make a $50,000 down payment. They would make that payment for you and then they would cut a check or a wire to you for the 100,000. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Hope that makes sense. Let me know if that made sense to you or if you still have questions, because I'm happy to answer that. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in tonight. If you have any questions at all on anything that I went over, like always, I've said, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me at my email, ashley@myhaventeam.com, or you can shoot me a text. My information is in the description below. I'd always like to be a resource for you guys and help you out with anything, not just with when you're ready to buy or sell. So look forward to talking to you guys next Thursday. I hope you have a fantastic weekend.